Welcome, guys. It's Tuesday night. Birds of a Feather live on A2D Radio from the Real Talk Studios. Chrome. Oh, I like that. I like that. Looks good. You got Chrome. You got Chucks. Over on the ones and twos, we got Ryan Brodo. First half of the show brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy, located in Burlington, Princeton, and Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Find them on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. And also, as usual, brought to you by Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountants. Make them yours, gibsonmayer.com. Scanzano Sports poll question this week. Big game this week, guys. Eagles, Cowboys, Sunday Night Football. Who is the Eagles MVP through the first half of the regular season? Clearly, we had the bye week. Going into the second half of the season, had a little momentum going in. Our choices, Carson Wentz, Zach Ertz, Alshon Jeffrey, Michael Bennett, or anybody else you want to mention. Join us on Instagram, Periscope, Facebook, YouTube. Looking forward to talking Eagles football with the fam tonight. And I also have to say, you know what that intro music reminds me of, Ryan? We got new intro music tonight. And it reminds me of, for all you old wrestling fans, the AA Arn Anderson music in WCW in the 1990s. And I dig it. I really dig it. But, yeah, man, let's get in. Let's start talking to the fam, guys.
Let's do it.
So, who is your MVP of the first half of the season? Clearly, the Eagles at this stage 4-4, kind of scuffled a little bit, but it seems like we're getting it together a little bit. Obviously, we're going to get our first taste of Golden Tate in this offense, which I'm very excited about and get to talk to a lot. Well, I didn't get to talk about it all last week because I was homesick. But Sicky Mike is back, as you guys were calling me, Sicky Chrome.
Sicky, yeah, last week.
I am back. I had the flu, so I apologize to the fam for not being here last week. But I wanted to make sure you guys had hosts for other shows. So me here talking into a microphone and spreading what I had would not have been fun. But yeah, who is your first half MVP, Chuck? Who do you got this for this week?
It's so tough. But I narrowed it down. And in the end, I think I'm going to have to go with Josh Adams.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, I was a little befuddled, but
it's obviously not Josh Adams. It's logic is going to say Zach Ertz, and that's a great pick. But I kind of want to go against the grain. I'm going to say Alshon.
Okay. That's not against the grain, by the way.
Well, because I've already seen a lot of comments on here saying by far Ertz. A lot of comments with the numbers he's been putting up and how he's been consistent all year, and
okay.
I get it, and that's not at all like a quote unquote wrong pick. But for me, getting Alshon back in week 3 and the difference he's made on the outside, because we know what we're getting with Ertz, and that's kind of in a way taking him for granted, and not trying to do that, but Alshon has stepped up so much. He looks even better than he was last year. And last year he was great. I mean, he took a little while to, build a little bit of a chemistry with Wentz, but in the second half, and on, he really balled out for us. But this year, healthy, he looks even. He's not an explosive guy to begin with, but he looks pretty explosive for Alshon Jeffrey, a guy of his size and
Yeah.
what the type of player he is. I mean, he's getting like wide receivers bubble screens on the outside and running them for first downs, and he looks absolutely unstoppable when Wentz throws up a 50-50 ball. Like when he trusts him so much, where it's just like, oh yeah, Alshon's gonna get it. Where last year, the beginning of last year, it's just like, oh, they can't connect on these. But now it's like left and right, boom, boom, boom. And I think him being there has just opened up so much in the passing game and provided a much more reliable threat on the outside. And I will say it, I'm not even going to, I'm not afraid to admit I was wrong, because in the offseason, I did say I think that Nelson Aguilar will take a step forward and be the best wide receiver on this Eagles team. And I was wrong. I was completely wrong. Nelson Aguilar, I won't say he's declined, but
he's definitely not regressed.
He's not regressed, but he hasn't taken that next step that I thought he would.
Right.
Alshon has taken that next step, and he's definitely a wide receiver one in this league. He's our number one wide receiver. Even with Golden Tate here, I still think Alshon is the guy, and to me, he is midway through the season. He would get my vote for MVP.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, clearly there's a very clear argument to be made for Zach Ertz because, through the struggles of this season, he's been a constant. He's been, arguably top 1 or 2 tight end in the league easily. He's been both for Foles and for Carson Wentz. He's been, we always say the term safety blanket, but he's been a guy that they can have 100% confidence in, that they know what they're going to get. They know they can rely on this guy to make plays. For me, I'm with you with Alshon Jeffrey simply for the fact that the moment that Alshon Jeffrey came back, this team changed. And as much as we expected that when Carson Wentz came back, that we were going to see a change. And Carson has been phenomenal, by the way.
Absolutely.
It doesn't feel like it because you look at the record and you see some of the struggles that they've had. But that being said, you look at his numbers through 5 games this year compared to 5 games last year, they're better. His numbers are better than they were at this point last year. And last year he had an MVP caliber season. So I think that kind of goes under the radar and isn't talked about enough. But that being said, to me, when Alshon Jeffrey stepped on the field and he had that huge first game back, the swagger in the passing game changed. And, Nelson, I'm with you in the sense that I can't say that he's regressed, but he's kind of fallen a little bit lost in the shuffle a little bit. He only really had that one really bad game where he dropped a few balls.
Yeah,
where
which
it was
game
kind
was
of
that?
throwback 2016 or 2015.
Was that the
Nelson,
Titans game?
I think it was. It might have been the
Titans
Tennessee game, but I think, in fairness, if we're looking at who is the MVP of this team, who's been the game changer for this team, it's been Alshon Jeffrey, absolutely. And you talk about coming in last year, there was a lot of criticism of, is this guy truly a number 1 or is he a strong number 2? And you kind of touched on the period of time that it took for him and Carson to kind of build that connection between the two guys, that trust. But even last year, once they did, he started to show those flashes. But I feel like he's come back. He's got that contract this year, and he didn't rest on his laurels. When he came back from injury, he has come in and been an absolute stud of a number 1 wide receiver. Clearly, to me, shuts down all the haters, all the critics who questioned if this guy could be a number 1 wide receiver. He absolutely can, and I think having Carson helps that as well. For every number 1 wide receiver, you got to have a guy who's going to throw you the football. You know? So I think it's absolutely Alshon Jeffrey. But an argument can be made for a lot of them. Michael Bennett's been huge on this football team.
Yeah.
I think we're getting a lot more out of him than we expected.
We got him for a 5th round pick.
You got him for a 5th round pick. I mean, and
that's not fair.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about, at times where we've had some guys who have, had trouble staying healthy on the defensive line. This guy wanted to have more of a role, and he has been given that opportunity and stepped in, and he's absolutely cashed in on it. So, I mean, there's an argument really to be made for a lot of them on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it's hands down Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. You want to go to the comments?
You know, on the fan, we got Brian Daly says, "What's up? What's up, fellas? Got to be Ertz thus far." I got a phone call here. We're gonna shut that shit down. Mike Mataraki, it's not even a question. Zach Ertz is the best tight end in football and most complete player on the Birds this season. Fair point. Greg says, poll question, it's Zach Ertz. He said you would in response to Tom, but I don't have that comment on here, so I don't know.
Tom says
Zuck's just screwing with me like he does every week.
I do see Spencer Henry says Ertz by far, and then Tom says 11, so Carson Wentz.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Parker says Zach Ertz as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of these comments aren't showing up on my.
Not showing.
I hate
Vespi,
you. Zuck hates me.
Vespi does. Vespi
week.
did chime in. Also, he said,
"What's up?
Hey
Frank?
yo, sorry to bother you at work. Ertz is having an unreal stat line this season." And then Greg did say, I don't know if you saw it, but he said Sucky is back. It's because you're a ginger.
Shut up, Greg. Stupid asshole.
On the YouTube.
I hate you, Greg, but I love you.
Yep. On the YouTube, Khalid
on
says,
the
"What's up,
tube.
my brothers?"
What's up, brother?
Mark Mack says, "Dallas weak. Dallas sucks.
Yes.
Dallas sucks.
Yes.
There's no clear-cut MVP. They're 4-4, not 7-1. Seriously." Well, I mean, okay. Sorry for having the conversation. TTP Ballin
Listen,
says,
dude, I don't care if the team is 0-8. Every team has a standout player. And we're talking about MVP of the season, not MVP of the league. So you can keep that over there.
TTP Ballin says, "Love watching the bum-ass Cowboys lose. Eagles will win the division. Let's go." Two Gun Tommy says, "Cowboys look bad." Mark Mack says, "They will win the division." Two Gun Tommy comes back, says, "Wentz, nobody looking at his stats. He's a stat machine."
Yeah, I mean, and it's not talked about enough because you are looking at a team that's 4-4, but Carson's numbers are comparable or better to last season at this point.
Mm-hmm. He's more accurate. If you even if you're like me and you want to take the stats out of it, like look beyond the stats, you watch the games. He's just a lot more accurate this year, which is great to see because last year his completion percentage was at what, like around 60. Now it's near 70.
Yeah.
So 10% more of his passes, and you just see the ball placement on his throws, and it's so much better than it was last year. So much better, especially on deep throws. It's exactly where it needs to be, and that's a great thing to see.
Yeah.
I think that it gets lost in the shuffle because I forget if it was you or someone else. It's because we're not a one-loss team right now.
Yeah.
It's getting lost in the shuffle.
No,
but
and listen, I mean, you have other quarterbacks in the league that are playing out of their mind. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is number one. So it's easy to kind of let that can fly under the radar. I mean, listen, the team hasn't met expectations, I think, that a lot of people had through the first half. But it's been a fight. They're continuing to fight. And I will say this, I had a little bit of a question of, is this team going to be able, especially with all the injuries? And I know, listen, next man up, but we can't expect every year to be like last year.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to take a toll. There was a little bit of question, not doubt, but question of, can this team, is this team going to have the stamina and ability to hang in with the way, especially that it looked like Washington was playing early on in the season? But now I go back and I'm looking. I mean, I feel like we got the real Washington Redskins this week against the Atlanta Falcons.
Exactly.
Yep. I think that, not to say that they're pretenders, I thought that Washington would be a good team coming into this year. I picked them. I would have picked them, and I said this before the season started on this show, that if Geis hadn't gotten hurt, I absolutely would have picked them to be a number 2 in this division and a threat to beat the Eagles in this division.
Yep.
But I felt like that Geis injury was going to hurt them a lot. The way Adrian Peterson has played for them overall, you know, and he's had a couple of times where, you know, his age is showing, but he's played at a very high level, much higher than I would have given him credit for or expected to. And that's helped to pad that issue that they've had at the running back position. And I think their defense has played very, very well.
Yeah, it has.
And in this league, defense, if you got a good defense or a strong defense that can keep you in games and a comparable offense, then you're good. And we question, did they have enough help at wide receiver too? They've been very good, but I think they came back down to earth a little bit.
Yep.
and we'll see. I mean, we'll see how the Washington Redskins bounce back. But remember, we still have games against them. We can make up this ground very, very easily.
Yes.
The second half of our schedule is going to be very, very difficult. A lot of divisional games. We still have to face New Orleans.
The
which
Rams.
that game, and the Rams game.
Yep.
The New Orleans game, by the way, as I'm sure you guys know, was flexed to the 425 game, which is exciting. So we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of meaningful football coming up, and I feel like bringing a talent like Golden Tate in is going to be absolutely huge. He's been the #1 slot receiver in the game over the last 5 years. He's a reception machine, 1,000+ yard machine. He doesn't get a lot of touchdowns, but I feel like that could change with Carson. But we always talk about yak. There's nobody better in football right now when you talk about yak than Golden Tate.
Yep.
And that's going to be huge. Now, the question was, well, what do you do with Nelson? I'm been with you. I give him a shot on the outside and see what he can do. He's got burner speed. I would absolutely give it. I mean, at least give him a few reps and give it a look in a game and see what he can do there. But I think that this is going to be good for Nelson too. A lot of people think it's going to take away opportunities for him. No, because now this is another major weapon in the passing game that they're going to have to protect. And we're getting reportedly likely getting Darren Sproles back finally this week, which will help with the running game, which will be so pivotal. And we're getting Timmy Jernigan back, which is going to be huge for the defense. Well, I don't know if he's coming back to play in this week's game, but he's back to
probably
practice.
Not.
He'll probably be the following week. But there's a lot of good talent coming back now for this team. New talent now acquired to play on this team. As far as just to kind of go back, because I wasn't here last week, I would like to have seen them make a move at the deadline for some kind of a secondary help.
We also agreed with that. Yeah, we all agreed with that.
Yeah, and unfortunately it didn't happen. But if you're going to do that and you look at the way the team is constructed now, I said it last week, clearly they were confident that Sproles was coming back soon and that he was going to be healthy. I kind of feel like they may have waited him out a little longer than need be to make sure that he's 100%
be safe,
healthy.
Yeah.
But the fact that they didn't make a move for a running back, because we talked about Lions running backs for weeks and weeks and weeks. We made the joke today, but maybe not so much of a joke. That, the Lions put Amir Abdullah on waivers. I'm not writing off the fact that the Eagles, if he clears waivers, take a shot and bring him in, see what he's got. But there's no doubt in my mind if they wanted to acquire that running back help, they could have did it in the same deal and pulled in a LeGarrette Blount or an Abdullah. For whatever reason they didn't. That to me showed me that they looked at it where what it probably would have cost them to get that secondary help, they weren't 100% confident in. But so what are you going to do now? What's going to be the biggest thing that's going to boost your offense for you? You have Darren Sproles coming back. Go out and get that big stud wide receiver, that dude who's going to get those yards after the catch. Freaking veteran, a champion, a guy who's possibly the best receiver at his specific position of the slot receiver. You go out and get him for a 3rd-round pick. I think it was a good move.
I definitely
think it was a great
so.
move.
Yeah, and it's good to hear your opinion on it because since you were out last week and get that. But we all pretty much agreed. And like I was saying last week, I don't know if you heard, but when it comes to Aguilar can play on the outside. People just automatically assume because he was there his first 2 years when he struggled that he can't. That's not true at all. Like you got to realize that his struggles in his first 2 years were mental and mental issues with confidence and his drops.
Yeah.
But he was never physically. He was never an issue. He was if you go back to 2016. Go back and rewatch if you can the Eagles Seahawks game where he's matched up constantly against Richard Sherman, and he's constantly getting separation against Richard Sherman. Okay, one of the best corners at that time. So it's not an issue of he can't play on the outside. It's an issue. The thing is he's best on the inside.
Sure.
But the thing is with him and Tate. They're both interchangeable. They can be you can put Aguilar back in the slot on some plays, move Tate on the outside. He has history playing on the outside. You can do vice versa, put him back. It's the alignment.
Yeah, you could definitely mix up different packages with these guys.
The alignment is not going to be as important as the routes they run.
Right.
And this is where my point has been, is where Tate is going to now take over the role of getting all those underneath and short to intermediate passes. And then Aguilar is now going to be our deep threat, where he is going to take over in the intermediate to deep part of the field. And that's the crucial part, is now you don't have to keep Aguilar in the short area anymore as much as they have been, because I feel like they were trying to get him yak and do a lot of explosive plays that way. But now with Tate there, that frees up Aguilar to be the deep threat, at least until Mike Wallace comes back, if he comes back. If Wallace comes back, and now you get another explosive weapon. That now you're talking about a very, 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 very formidable offense. So it is a great move. I'm very, very excited about it. And what I find even more exciting is that Tate is he's embracing the trade.
Yeah.
Everything he's saying, doing about, since coming here, he loves it. And I think we are going to love Golden Tate. I've been on a record before saying that the one thing about Tate that I was never a huge fan of was his kind of like his showboating. But I mean, when it came to his skills, I always loved his ability as a yak guy. I thought he was, you're talking about like a running back in a wide receiver's body. He really is so good at making and creating yards for himself. So I love that here, and I think you have someone who's good on third down. We need to get our third down percentage back up.
No, and I loved his simple mentality of, why are you able to be so successful when it comes to the yards after the catch? And I don't like to be tackled. Yeah. So I strong legs and just pounding for those yards. And like you said, that's a lot of like a running back mentality of, having strong legs to be able to fight through tackles.
Yep.
I've always been a big Golden Tate fan. I don't mind the showboating because I don't feel like he's a guy who's overly presenting that kind of stuff. He has his moments, but they all do. But I've always felt like he's just the consummate professional guy. He works hard.
He's a leader.
He's a leader on the field. Again, he's been on a championship team before. He knows what it takes to get there. And, yeah, I mean, listen, you get a chance to get out of Detroit and go to a defending champion who has a chance to get back to the playoffs and make some noise, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense for him. And if it's for 8 games, cool. If they can figure out a way to bring him back, I don't know if they'll be able to, especially looking at what they're asking for, or what his agent said or was reported that his agent's going to be asking for. Then so be it. You take the shot, especially with the fact that it costs a third-round pick. And although you won't have that pick this year, and especially if he signs for what they're reporting he's going to ask for, you're going to get a third or fourth-round pick back for him.
That's what was reported,
and a compensatory pick. So really all it was you traded to get 8 games for this guy to defer the pick and maybe move it back around for next year. No big deal. They don't necessarily need it for this year because they have their 2 second-round picks.
Yeah.
So it's not a huge blow for them.
Just might want to look at the conversation on YouTube right now.
Oh, okay. We'll pull it up.
While you guys are pulling that up, I found a stat when you guys were talking about Wentz.
Yeah.
It's eye-opening to anyone because I agree, Wentz is kind of fallen. I mean, no one's really talking about him right now.
Under the radar is the way I would put it.
So I found a stat that compares Wentz and Aaron Rodgers through the last 16 starts they've had. Let me just keep it simple, okay? Wentz, the last 16 starts, 4,268 yards as opposed to Rodgers. Rodgers has more yards, 4,500.
Okay, that's close enough.
Touchdowns. Wentz has 41. Rodgers has 35. Same amount of interceptions. The quarterback rating for Wentz is 107.5. Rodgers, 99.3. Just saying.
And listen, that's arguably the greatest quarterback in the league right now. And you're seeing a lot more of that conversation happening now between him and Brady, too. A lot of articles and different things coming out.
Are you talking about the Alshon conversation on YouTube?
I'll have to go
All
back.
right, let's get into it.
You want to dabble?
Pretty much. Okay,
right.
I'm not going to read through every comment, but it started to get into, I think, who's it? Eagles Forever
Okay.
said that,
What's up, Eagles Forever?
y'all laughed at me when I said Alshon can be top 5 wide receiver if healthy. I said that his first game back called me a fool, and he proving. TTP Ballin says definitely not top 5, but top 10, I'd say. And then they start to, Two Gun Tommy says Alshon is a sleeper. You can argue he's top 5. And then that's when the conversation keeps going. TTP says he's not in the class of Julio, Odell, Hopkins, Thielen, AJ Green, AB, and all that. So they keep going with Alshon. Do you want to start?
I would put him outside of the top 5, but I would definitely put him in the top 10 category. And I mean, the names were spouted off right there. I mean, and another guy who emerged into that top list this year is Adam Thielen.
And they're comparing those two right now.
And Adam Thielen, hands down, right now, there's nobody on the planet playing better at the wide receiver position than Adam Thielen right now. So
I love Alshon, and I will admit that I had him in my top. He was around top 15 to 20 in the offseason.
Oh, he's in
I'm
the top
bumping
10.
him up to around top 10. Again, it's rough because I don't have all the names. I'd have to relook and everything, but he would definitely be around top 10 for me. But I can't put him in top 5, and especially you have other guys who are now starting to step up also around the league, and I don't hear rightfully so. Okay, I don't want anyone getting this out of context. Rightfully so, Adam Thielen is getting a lot of buzz, but someone who I think is not getting enough buzz still is Tyreek Hill. And you're talking about someone who has, and I mentioned it last week.
That's another guy I would say is under the radar.
Under the radar.
Which is the season he's having is
his speed, and I told this to Greg and to Ryan last week toward the end of the show. I'm going to say it now at the beginning of the show or the midway through the first half, is that Tyreek Hill has unmatchable speed right now in the league. There's no one as fast as Tyreek Hill. So it doesn't matter that for someone with his rare ability, it doesn't matter that he doesn't have the best route running skills. It doesn't matter that he's not big. When you can't catch him, then there's nothing you can do. Like what secondary, what defensive back is going to be able to keep up with him? And you see that with the Chiefs and Mahomes and his big arm, that's perfect. And Tyreek Hill is constantly beating secondaries, constantly making plays. So Tyreek Hill belongs in the conversation of those top tier wide receivers. When you're talking about Antonio Brown, talking about Julio Jones, OBJ, DeAndre Hopkins, Adam Thielen, he is in that conversation.
I would so of that top list that was given on Facebook, Julio, Odell, Hopkins, AJ Green, and Antonio Brown, I would take AJ Green out of that, and I might argue that I would take Alshon over AJ Green. That's just me. But without question, none of the other 5 that are there. So that would at least put him at 6. I might make the argument that Tyreek Hill might slip ahead of him, but that's an argument to be had. I'll say I'm not even going to put him towards the back end of the top 10. I'll put him in a 6 or 7 spot, or maybe 8, depending on where you put AJ Green. He's top 8. I'll say that. He's in my head. He's absolutely top 8.
I just asked the fam on YouTube and Facebook if you want to join in as well. By all means, I asked them to make a top 7, and yes, I mean a top 7 because top 5's kind of self-explanatory.
Now
for
I
the
have
most part.
to go through all of these. Jeez.
So
okay.
We should probably be getting some interesting answers in the next handful of minutes.
Yeah, definitely. You guys are gonna make me. Okay, so all right.
So
I'm gonna. Okay, this was my off-season list when we had our off-season rankings and we did each week. This was my list. I had Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, OBJ, DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, Tyreek Hill, Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans. Okay? Now, those top 4 of Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Odell Beckham, and DeAndre Hopkins, I'm not touching. Those are 4. Now, after that, if you want to start at 5, you're going to get into, I'm not going to rank them, but I'm going to talk about who's in the next group. So I'm definitely throwing Tyreek Hill, Adam Thielen, and AJ Green into that group. So that's 7 right there. to me, that is my lock of 7. So Antonio Brown, Julio, OBJ, DeAndre Hopkins, Adam Thielen, Tyreek Hill, and AJ Green. They are my 7. If you want to put, I would probably put Alshon that next group. So you want to talk about 8 to 10, Alshon would be right around there for me. That's
Yeah, I mean,
personally
for me, it would probably be Antonio Brown, Julio. I'd probably put DeAndre Hopkins above Odell.
okay.
I'd probably do Odell, Adam Thielen.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably do Tyreek Hill 6. I'd probably do AJ. No, I would do Alshon. With the way he's playing now, and I think that's going to continue, I would probably do Alshon 7, AJ Green 8.
What about Diggs?
Diggs is in that next group.
I think he's
To
in the
me.
next group because to
Diggs
me,
in
the
that
number
group,
one
yeah.
guy on that team is Adam Thielen. You're just talking number ones. To me, Diggs is the number 2. And I think that Thielen makes Diggs that much better.
I don't know about that much better because I think Diggs also.
No, I think he would be really good, but I think that having Adam Thielen there is on his wing. I think Thielen is going to be a special talent.
He is, I think, but the thing is for me, I think, and I've been saying this for now 2-3 years, I think both of them are special talents. People just focus on Thielen for again, obvious and rightful reasons, but you have to talk about also. I wish people would look beyond the numbers.
There's a lot of good wide
Like,
receivers. Somebody in here
Stephon
mentioned
Diggs.
Michael Thomas.
Michael
still.
Thomas is
Like-
in that next group too, along with.
But he's
Alshon.
pretty close.
He's close.
He's
He
a
is
top
close.
guy, man.
I put Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs in terms of just ability over Michael Thomas, but Michael Thomas is not far behind. People sleep on Stephon Diggs.
I mean, that's what I give him.
I can't stand it. Like, they sleep on Stephon Diggs, but this guy's talent is unreal.
yeah.
Just because he's on the same team as Adam Thielen, so he's not getting all the targets. But this guy is his physical ability and his downfield and deep as a downfield deep threat too. His route running is right there with Adam Thielen, and you gotta actually look at his ability. He's unreal. They both help each other out. It's I would put Adam Thielen now above Diggs, but Diggs is not far behind at all.
No,
People need to recognize.
No, he might be the top of that next level.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
Yep.
I mean, that's a good question.
That is
I
a
mean,
good
that's just off
conversation,
the
yeah.
cuff. I would have to if I really wanted to have a few minutes, I would probably switch a few guys if I had a few minutes to really sit and kind of look at some things. But
It's really tough. Yeah.
the top wide receiver position in this league, if you want to go by just number ones, is so deep, and the talent level is so close.
Yes. Yes.
You're looking at intangible things, and really, I always hate that people go by just resume, but you go by that too, like an Antonio Brown who's done it for so long. At this point with Ben, and I know a lot of people love Ben. I'm not the biggest Ben fan, but you can't deny that they've had a great connection over the years. I mean, there's so many different things that you can look at because the argument can be made with OBJ that he's doing nothing this year, but that team stinks. They have no quarterback. Eli Manning is god-awful. And listen, he's not even the Eli Manning of last year that got benched for Geno Smith. He's a shell of that Eli Manning. So it's tough for me to sit here and judge OBJ and take away from his game and say he's not on their level when he has nobody throwing the football to him at this point. And really, I don't know if they have a hope for in the near future for a quarterback because they didn't plan for a quarterback. So I don't know. I mean, I can't knock the guy. The talent is still there. He's still a super talented guy. For me, and the knock on him is keeping his head in the game and keeping his head on straight. So, I mean, I still have to put him in top 4.
You're talking about OBJ still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think
I
that
mean, Hopkins to me is over him. The argument before was, is he the number 1 or number 2 or number 3? I think he's number 4 now. Without question, to me, DeAndre Hopkins is overtaking him.
Okay. I think it's closer. I would still put OBJ like a slight hair above Hopkins at the moment. But I totally hear what you're saying. And I've been a Hopkins fan since his rookie year, so I want to say Hopkins over OBJ, but
He's and that's my man. Eagles forever. He said, okay, you win me over. Alshon top 7 or 8. There's so many that are balling this year. There is, dude. It's crazy.
It's absolutely
how good
nuts.
the wide receiver position is this year. And it's so funny that in a year when Le'Veon Bell is not in the league for all intents and purposes, a lot of times there's always arguments about running backs and the years they're having and who's the top running back. And you don't hear as many conversations about the wide receivers. But now without having him in the league, you have Todd Gurley, who's essentially it's Todd Gurley and everybody else for the most part, that now people are realizing how many great talented wide receivers are in this league. And it seems like this season specifically, the wide receiver position is become such a focal point. I mean, you look at guys like, look at the Rams and all the talent they have. Look at the year Robert Woods is having this year.
Woods, man.
And I absolutely love Robert Woods. I mean, you talk this year alone, this year alone is probably a top 10 or 12 wide receiver with so much other talent around him, with guys like Cooper Kupp and everybody else around him. He's putting up monster numbers.
I wanted Woods as an Eagle.
I love
wanted
Robert
him as
Woods.
an
I
Eagle
would have
when he was
loved
a
to
free.
have him
I
on this
would have
team.
absolutely loved him, and I got laughed at by a certain friend of ours. I won't say his name, but I got laughed at. He called me pretty much stupid, saying that he's glad I'm not the GM of the Eagles.
Yeah.
But Robert Woods is really, really,
He
really
is
good.
very good. And if you look at all these wide receivers who are having these monster years, and again, we talked about Odell Beckham Jr., who's really not. He's not. And I mean, it is what it is. All of them have great quarterbacks or really, really good or budding quarterbacks in this league throwing to them, including Tyreek Hill having an incredible year. And what do you have? You have a young quarterback in Patrick Mahomes who's playing lights-out football right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you got to take all that stuff into account. I can't judge a guy on one bad year when he doesn't have a quarterback. And he might have a shitty year next year because I don't know what they're going to do for quarterback.
Justin
I
Herbert
mean,
probably from Oregon.
Maybe they'll go out and sign Sam Bradford. Who the hell knows?
Or Matt Ryan.
Oh, God. Yeah, or Matt Ryan. Oh, I remember that conversation. That was good. That was good.
Do you remember? Do you guys realize that someone brought this up, but do you realize that at one point the Buffalo Bills had on their wide receiver core Robert Woods, Marquise Goodwin, and Sammy Watkins.
Yeah.
And look
insane.
where all of them are now and what they're doing. That is insane that they let that talent and they waste, like while they're in Buffalo, they wasted that talent, all that potential at wideout, and they go elsewhere.
And they had LaShawn McCoy, too, in the backfield, right?
I don't know if it was at the same time. I don't
or
know
was
if it's
it right around the time where they started splitting that up?
I think they started splitting that up, yeah.
I was going to say,
But,
if they had that wide receiving, if they had that kind of wide receiving core in LaShawn when he was still at a high level, that would have been insane. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah.
I thought he was there at least his first year with them. But
you could be right. It could have been 1 year, but I don't know. It was close.
It was the first year, right?
Yeah, because
he played
that was back in the 2014-15 season. So
Okay.
that was right at the beginning of it.
Right when they had brought McCoy in.
Okay,
God,
so was that
what
1 year? Yeah. Oh my
And
gosh,
look at them
they
now.
wasted it. They wasted. Oh
Good
my
God.
gosh, all that speed and playmaking ability on the
Man,
outside.
just drop one of these young quarterbacks in on that team right now, like just on a parachute.
With a
turn
good
back time and
offensive
drop
coach.
them in. Good Lord.
Oh my good Lord, they must be. Oh, just looking at that, Watkins, Goodwin alone. That is speed, and then you got Robert Woods running in the intermediate part of the field, and then LaShawn McCoy out of the backfield. That would be a great wide receiver. Jeez.
I'll just ask you guys this: how foolish does that third round pick for Tyrod Taylor deal look now?
Yeah, not good.
Not good.
Nathan Peterman,
Derek
Anderson.
Oh God. Derek
Listen,
Anderson.
that's another
Dear
team.
Lord.
Everybody knows my team, my AFC team that I grew up loving. They're still my AFC team is the Dolphins. I know what it's like to grow up and have like a great quarterback and not have all the talent around. And then we still haven't had a quarterback in Miami since '99. Remember the 1 week we went through and we played Chrome. Chrome name all the Dolphins quarterbacks since, and I think I got like 70% of them. I got most of them, and there's like 20 of them, but I think it was like 22 or something like that. We'll have to go back and look at it again. But anyway, it's the same thing with Buffalo. Like, look at that talent they had. Who was throwing to them in that year?
Sorry,
Wasn't it Trent Edwards, was it? No, he was. I think he was long removed from then.
I don't remember.
That was what, 2014, I think we were saying, right?
Shoot.
Or 15? We'll have to go back.
No, it was Fitzpatrick.
Oh, God, it was Ryan Fitzpatrick. Damn. Who is
Oh my
who
gosh.
is starting in Tampa Bay as we speak?
Oh my gosh.
Seriously, it was Fitzpatrick.
That's crazy.
Then he went to the
Oh
Jets.
my
I forgot about that. You're
God.
right, because he's played on like 8 teams, right? 9
Yep.
teams.
A lot of teams.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't even
It's
know.
crazy.
We got some Facebook chatter going
Yeah,
on.
it's not updating on my phone.
it's
so you're gonna have
not.
to
Well,
read
that's
through
weird.
them.
All right, so Dion
Zuck
did
hates me today, man.
Dion did chime in and says, poll, what's up, fellas? Poll question. Right now, give the nod to Zach Ertz.
Okay.
I see Michael Bennett's name in the poll question. I have to go back and look his complete stats leading up to the Cowboys week, but Carson would be second on the list for me. What I will say, Dion, is don't look at the stats. Don't bother, because you need to look at just back at the film and see how much penetration Bennett gets consistently.
Yeah, because there's a lot of plays. He may not be
He
the guy
just-
registering the tackles, but he's putting the pressure in
Yep.
there, and he's always
Doing
around the
re-
quarterback.
yep.
He's always around the quarterback.
He says for Wentz to have those numbers compared to Aaron Rodgers shows we have a quarterback for the next 12 years who will break, if not all of them, then most of McNabb's numbers very soon. And then he chimes into the wide receiver talk. It says, I'd love to have AJ Green on this team. He wants out of Cincy. I'm not sure what his contract is after this season, but shit, why not go after him? I believe he's a free agent after this season. It's been 4 years already plus. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys.
Because you got to pay your quarterback, and you're not going to.
It's going to be tough. I would love that, but
Golden Tate would be a fringe, and you might have to make the sacrifice of Nelson if you're going to do that. There's no way you're bringing AJ Green in here because number 11's got to get paid.
And then he says, just number one wide receivers. He go Antonio, Julio, DeAndre, OBJ, Thielen, Alshon, and his boy from Seattle, Baldwin. Baldwin's another good slot wide receiver. He's hurt this year, but he has been good. He would probably be around 15-ish for me, my ranking. I think I had him. And then he says Robert Woods' route running game is so crisp. That's how Aguilar should be at this point in his NFL career.
And that's a fair assessment.
That's a fair assessment.
Absolutely a fair assessment.
Yep.
Yeah, I just saw that's the only comment that updated on there. Stupid.
Wow, that's weird.
Zuck hates me, man. I'm telling you, I say this
I don't know.
every week because it's true. I'm just bringing back up the YouTube comments. Why did we waive DeAndre Carter when his punt returns were pretty good? Sproles back. Sproles, it's been reported that it seems like he's going to be back this week, and I think
That's
we
what
kinda
I
touched
think.
on that earlier.
I think I
don't
got-
think you got the definitive yet, but it's
Yeah,
been
that's some sentiment.
heavily reported that he should be back by this week, which
Yeah.
again, I think they held off on him a little longer than they probably needed to because you got to make sure when he comes back he's good to go.
Well, let's go ahead.
I was going to say, question. If you get rid of Carter and Sproles isn't back, who's returning your kicks and punts?
That's what I'm.
Corey?
I
Don't like it. I'm just asking.
Probably.
Gibson.
Could be
Um,
Gibson.
He's still here.
Well, he is. He's the fifth wide receiver. Here, this is where we get into it,
For
though.
now.
So here's the thing. Let's get into this now. Then, since we're on that subject, with Sproles projected to come back, and they cut Carter, I don't know how everyone else felt. I felt like I was in the minority in saying that I felt like they cut the wrong guy. I would have wanted Carter to stay as the Eagles returner for this reason. Two reasons, actually. One, Carter's been doing nothing but killing it as a punt returner and kick returner. He's getting so many yards, and he's making people miss. He hasn't called a fair catch ever since he's been installed, but he hasn't fumbled the ball. Like, he's absolutely fearless, and he will get every yard that's there to be had. And I felt like it was only a matter of time before he broke one to the house. Second reason is, and you can say I'm crazy. I know Matt Araki kind of got on me for this opinion, but I feel like if you have Carter that's killing it as a returner, and we are lacking in production from our running game, let Carter take over as a returner and just have Sproles focus on offense so that you maximize his touches per game and you can get him in an offense where we need a weapon out of the backfield over guys that we've had now. And so if you have Sproles there getting as many touches as he can on offense, then that maximizes the offense more than it would be if you had Sproles as a returner, and then you kind of have to have him sit some plays on offense. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, personally, and you guys on social media, on YouTube and whatnot, listening, can get on me all you want, but I would have sent Josh Adams back to the practice squad. I would have. I would have sent Josh Adams back to the practice squad and kept DeAndre Carter as a returner. That is just me.
It's a little bit
Have
of a hot
at it.
take.
If you want to have it as a hot, that's fine. But that's my personal opinion. I don't think. Yeah, he had a good game, but he's still really limited in what he can do. I want people that can do multiple things in this offense, and to me, we would have benefited more with having Sproles and Carter than Sproles and Adams.
Another name thrown in, by the way, wide receivers T.Y. Hilton. So many good receivers in this
He's
league
good.
right now. It's insane.
I would put Alshon over Ty though. I would have Alshon.
Somebody threw in Jordan Matthews. No, I'm kidding. He was mentioned, but not in that.
Was that Ralphie mentioning Jordan Matthews?
Oh, God damn. Probably was Ralphie.
It's his boy.
TTP Ballin says this season's top 10, he has AB 1, Watkins 2, Thielen 3, Julio 4, Tyreek Hill 5, AJ Green 6, tied for 7th because he couldn't decide. He has Alshon and Devontae Adams. He has Odell 8, Brandon Cooks 9. And
I didn't hear Diggs.
no, it's because Diggs isn't in there.
I don't like it.
He's got DT 10.
I don't. DT over Diggs? I hope that was just an omission by accident.
Wait, he has Sammy Watkins too?
No, did you say Sammy Watkins? No, you said
Watkins too?
Yeah, he said Watkins too. Maybe it.
no, Hopkins. He just said it. He said
I
I meant Hopkins
Okay.
too, not Watkins.
I read through that.
Woo!
Funny thing was, I read through that and didn't even realize I was thinking Hopkins in my head, so I didn't even realize that. So, well, good on you. Because if you put Sammy Watkins too, yeah, that would have been a little insane. I didn't catch it. I just processed it as Hopkins.
It sounds similar, so I don't.
That's
I
funny.
don't blame him. Yeah. I know
that conversation may have ended right away. TTP, you gave us a little jolt there for a second. We thought that that hot take was going to burn the studio down.
Oh,
Damn.
man.
All right, so
I don't disagree, by the way. I mean, a lot of people are saying in here, a couple people are saying Carter should have stayed. Carter better than Sproles back there probably at this point. I mean, we got a hard time keeping Darren Sproles on the field at this point.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a hot take to suggest that maybe he doesn't need to be the return guy anymore, especially if you have a guy who is experiencing success. Yeah, like you say, he's not taking it back to the house every time, but he's doing everything that he can to give them the best possible field position. And that's really all you need. And at some point, it'll happen. The holes will open up, and they'll get their chance to take it back.
Yeah.
But I am concerned a little bit with putting the return duties back onto Darren Sproles because I'm not confident this guy's going to stay on the field for the rest of the season.
I think that's more the concern. I think if he's healthy, the ability is not the question. So I'm not questioning Darren Sproles' ability as a returner. I'm questioning his age and what are you going to do when you lose him as a returner?
What my issue is when you are trying to fix an issue, I don't believe in robbing Peter to pay Paul. You don't have an issue in the return game at this point. Darren Sproles to this offense means so much more as a running back this season that you need to keeping the focus for him on running back and keeping him on the field is much more valuable than worrying about, listen, he's got a storied history as a return man. And it is no slight on him by saying, dude, we need you to play on the field when we're having snaps behind number 11.
Yes, exactly.
Do not worry about that. You're, 33 years old at this point? Or whatever he is, 32.
You've made 2 Pro Bowls as a returner. It's fine.
We don't need it. We have a guy who is doing the job and doing it well. It's not a slight on him. It makes a lot of sense. And now what you do is you take the risk. Let's just say a team needs a return man and picks him up. And then Darren Sproles gets hurt. Well,
what are you going to do?
Now you got 2 holes again.
God.
Now you got 2 holes because we're talking about Corey Clement's going to be back in this. And I was okay with him doing that because I made the argument for 2 or 3 weeks was fine. It wasn't a long-term solution. We knew somebody else was going to take that role back over. But now you're looking at your options are thin. Now you don't know what your long-term option is, so you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
I don't believe in robbing Peter to pay Paul. I'm concerned that this guy's going to stay on the field to begin with. So I don't hate your idea. I said earlier, send Adams back to the practice squad. I said that before we went on the air.
Yeah.
That could have been an option.
Yep.
I'm going to ask you guys a question, and tell me if this sounds asinine. So, by all means, Hollins and Wallace look like they're coming back off of the IR.
Both of them, is that how it's looking like?
Yeah,
I
definitely
believe,
Wallace.
I believe Wallace is coming back.
I believe that too.
I don't know about.
I haven't
Mac
heard
Hollins.
anything
I
about
haven't heard
Mac.
anything about Mac all season.
Apparently, Hollins is progressing. They've been really quiet with him for some reason.
Yeah.
But let's just say, for example, Wallace.
I
does.
believe Wallace will be back. I believe he'll be back probably. I would say within the next
few weeks.
3
I
weeks.
would say probably 3 to 4
3 weeks has
yeah.
to be the minimum, right?
I think he comes back for the first Redskins game. To be honest.
Okay.
Which is Monday Night Football, so it's an additional day for prep.
True.
Which I believe was mentioned when I had read earlier a few weeks ago that they expected him to be back well before the minimal time. They expected him to be healthy a couple of weeks before the minimal time, which would give him enough extra time to make sure he's healthy and to get enough practice.
Gotcha.
My question to you guys is, couldn't I say that they're doing this because DeAndre Carter, it was inevitable that he was going to be cut because they need the roster spots? So Sproles coming back is a way for them. I mean, DeAndre Carter then goes to the side, and Gibson will then be cut when Wallace comes back. Because my point is,
I'd rather cut Gibson now, and then if by that point Sproles is proving he's able to stay on the field, then I worry about it then. But I'm looking at right now, and I don't know that this guy's going to get off the field by the end of Sunday night. And I'm not trying to put any negative vibes out there. I'm a real talker, though. I'm not really superstitious.
Yeah.
I think he'll be fine, but you never know.
Yeah.
We don't know if he's going to get off the field on Sunday or next Sunday.
So
I think you got to plan for what your immediate issues are now.
Yeah. Your argument is cut Gibson instead of.
yeah, because when is Gibson used?
No, yeah, that's a
Like I said, I didn't even know he was still on the team.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I did, but I didn't.
That's a fair point.
Oh,
I forgot about him too.
Yeah, it's
kind of a forgotten man.
He's been someone who has struggled, and this is because you guys remember I even wrote an article about Sean Gibson and his emergence in the preseason.
And aside from the fact that, by the way, you still have Dallas Goedert as another passing option if you need to have somebody out there, and also the fact that Darren Sproles can line up on the outside as a wide receiver. So that's going to change your game planning anyway. I don't know that there's going to be as much of an emphasis on having Gibson out there.
That's okay.
In the few little things that he does.
I think I might amend my statement and say maybe Gibson should have been the guy cut instead of Carter or Adams.
I mean,
Adams.
so especially now because he has no spot in this offense because Golden Tate is here now.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a good point.
So Eagles Forever, he put he's going off of half stats and half by what he's seen. He put AB 1, Julio 2, Hopkins 3, Michael Thomas 4, Adam 5. Wait, I'm reading. No, Thomas 3, Adam 5, Hill 6 or Hill 5. Jesus, why am I miscounting this? Oh, he put 2 number 3s. That's why I'm like, wait, I'm miscounting something here. Okay, so he has AB 1, Julio 2, Hopkins and Thomas at 3, Adams at 5. Hill at Adams at 4, Hill at 5. I can't count for some reason.
It's formatted.
And he has Alshon and Green at 6. So he's kind of clumping a few guys together because he can't decide. And that's fine. I mean, to me, then I just skip 4 and go to 5.
All right, you want a hot take before we go on the thing? I think a lot of people are overrating Michael Thomas.
I don't think people.
I think people. No, here's the thing.
So at all.
Here's the thing. I think a lot of Michael Thomas.
I think.
Okay, I won't say a lot.
I think you're on an island by yourself on that one, buddy.
This is what I'm gonna say. Michael Thomas is definitely in the conversation as a top 10 wide receiver in the league.
Sure.
I think when I did my ranking, I think he was around 10. I would not touch him in top 5. I would absolutely. There's no way he would be in the conversation for top 5. A lot of the reasons why he is successful is because of that system, and I'll just leave it at that. He's not touching anywhere close to Adam Thielen, Tyreek Hill. He's not in that. He just isn't. He's that next tier down around 10.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna respond to that.
Yeah, so that's
I'll give you that. That's fine. Tom Hartnett said, overrated. Are you okay?
No, go ahead. Get at me. But I'm telling you, a lot of this is because of fantasy. People love they put so much on fantasy scores.
Tom said, oh, my God, stop it. He's a pimp.
Oh, he's a pimp. But just because I don't put him in near top 5 and put him in top 10 doesn't mean I'm hating on the guy. I'm being real. They're physical ability, so.
SJM says, Michael Thomas is the truth. I know the Saints throw a lot, but come on.
Go ahead. You keep coming at me, but I'm telling you.
Tom said 5th best
You're
in the
going
game.
you're going to put him near top 5? No, sorry. He's top 10 to me.
So the
top
question
10.
came up, do you go after Amir Abdullah? That was asked by
Was that really
ASMR. We have been having this conversation
for
weeks.
For weeks. Us three.
Yes. I have. Listen.
Tom's about to. What's Tom saying? I know Tom's gonna.
I know. Tom.
We're talking about.
But we were
this.
busting his balls in a group chat earlier. He almost blew his lid. But listen, here's why I say you take a shot at Amir Abdullah. I know he's had injury issues. I know that he's had issues with living up to the potential. But I believe it changes scenery. I believe his ability in this offense could give him the opportunity to turn that around. And for maybe you don't want to trade and give up an asset, but at this point now, if he clears waivers and you can sign him for whatever, then the Detroit Lions, I believe, are on the hook for the rest of it, right? Does that work the same way?
Wait, hold on. Sorry, I was reading a comment.
So
Sorry.
he's cleared by waiver. If he clears waivers,
he's a free agent.
He's a free agent, right? If he's signed, now do they just pay him that money up front, or is it like kind of like other sports where whatever team grabs him, or maybe that's if they claim him on waivers? That's if they claim him on waivers.
Yes.
But I'm thinking if say we sign him for the minimum, then whatever his contract was, the Lions have to pay out the rest of that, right? But that gives them a little bit of relief because we take on whatever we pay him, and then they pay the additional amount that he was owed from when he was cut, correct? Guaranteed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just making sure.
That's how I believe it too.
That's
how
I was just making sure. So to me, you could literally just sign this guy for the veteran minimum or the league minimum and just bring him in and give him a shot. And you know what? If he doesn't work, cut him. It's not going to cost you anything. Like it's a low risk.
It's a low risk.
Absolutely bottom floor, low risk, high reward, potential high reward opportunity. I think you go after him if you get a chance. We could use the depth, especially.
We could.
Again, we don't know what's going to happen with Sproles.
Yeah, is he any real is it Abdullah's?
Somebody said in here too. He reunites with Golden Tate too, so it's a teammate that he's had that he could play with. Yeah, absolutely. Go to the last couple comments on Facebook because we're getting ready to jump off.
On Facebook, yeah. Dion chimed in. He said, "If Wallace gets
ready to jump off of Facebook, not all together.
Yeah, if Wallace gets back before Hollins, one or two players will have to get cut. So who will it be? Well, never mind. You guys just answered that question for me. I see Gibson out, or even a Sweat being demoted to the practice squad. Sweat is not being demoted.
I don't think
they need him because of the Barnett injury.
Yeah,
Sweat's not going anywhere. Michael Thomas is a baller, but he benefits from the system and a quick release quarterback. Yes, Deion Brown. Thank you. Almost any player that's been in this league can help us. Abdullah would help. Yes, it's about winning this division and getting back to the playoffs.
Can I just make a statement here too? We got the video on here. When Chuck stood up and put his arms up, he was barely taller than me sitting down.
Yes, I know. Ready? Cool.
That was pretty great. All right. Guys, good stuff the first half of the show. We're going to hop off of Facebook, off of Instagram, and off of Periscope. Please click the link. Join us on the other half. We're going to be exclusively on YouTube. We're going to take a short break. We're going to do a couple of mid-season awards and have that kind of a conversation. We're going to preview Eagles Cowboys and no huddle. So we got a lot of good stuff coming up. Chucks and Chrome, Ryan Brodo on the 1s and 2s. Again, first half of the show brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy. You can find them in Burlington, Cherry Hill, and Princeton, New Jersey. Also find them on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. And also, as always, by our favorite guys over there at Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountants. Make them yours, gibsonmayer.com. Brief break. We'll catch you guys on the other side on YouTube. Welcome back to the second half of the
is
show.
this?
Welcome back to Birds of a Feather live from the Real Talk Studios. And we wanted to make sure by having that intro bed that you guys were awake and letting you know we're ready to go with a lot of energy because goddamn,
Holy crap.
good Lord. But first, for a second half of the show, I'm all over the place. I feel like I just drank 5 monsters. Second half of the show brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy. You can find them in Burlington, Princeton, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, also on the web at specializedphysicaltherapy.com, and by Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountants. Make them yours, gibsonmayer.com. Our Stream Smart poll question this week, who's your first half Eagles MVP? Carson Wentz, Zach Ertz, Alshon Jeffrey, Michael Bennett, SkinsAnoSports.com. We're back, guys. A lot of hot conversation going on over here. We are exclusively on YouTube. If you made the jump, we appreciate it. Chrome, Chucks, Mr. Brodo over on the ones and twos. A lot of good stuff going on here. You were talking about some awards.
Yeah,
so
you want to get to?
let's
So
knock those off. We really never ended up addressing those
I know,
because
yeah,
we got into
tangent.
we got into wide receiver conversation and all kinds of
Abdullah
stuff.
conversation.
Amir Abdullah, future Philadelphia Eagle conversation.
Although that
I'll tell you what, if
conversation
they sign, if they bring in Abdullah,
we are
in,
partying.
I'm getting Tom Arnone an Amir Abdullah Eagles T-shirt.
It's
Yes,
not
that's
even
good.
like, for example, I think the main reason why we were talking about it, I don't think it's because we wanted it so bad. It just makes the most
It made
makes
sense.
sense.
At the time, it
Yeah,
made
it
sense.
just makes
we
sense.
were
Yeah.
talking about teams that had depth at wide receiver that could, or I'm sorry, running back that
yeah.
could look to move guys that had multiple, and they were the one that had multiple options that
Yeah.
could be moved. So that's why it made sense.
Exactly.
And you talk about a guy who maybe needed a change of scenery.
Yeah.
So that was why, but it was just so funny how it just kind of came to fruition.
Yeah.
It's
It's
happening.
happening.
It's little by
It's
little.
happening. All right. So, awards. So we talked about MVP. We all gave our votes for MVP.
Okay.
Ryan, who would you put for MVP? Just say your name.
Mr. Zach Ertz.
Okay, cool. So we got MVP. Let's go to the other side. Who's your least valuable player?
Oh.
Now consider this. It's easy to throw out someone like Corey Graham
Am I looking?
because he's hardly
no,
ever playing, but you got to also factor in how much are they playing
I'm looking.
to how little impact they're making. Go first, Chrome.
I'm going to look at a guy that I feel like has regressed this year
Say
or
it.
not stepped up. You already know where I'm going to go. And
Say
I
it.
also feel like he's been there's accountability for a lot of mistakes that have happened on the football field and costly mistakes, and that is Jalen Mills.
Yes.
To me, it's no question. And listen, I like Jalen. I don't think we need to get rid of Jalen Mills. I don't think we need to cut the guy. But I believe in putting accountability where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he has absolutely, of anybody on this football team, when you talk about guys expecting to take a step forward, it didn't even have to be a massive leap forward. But a guy I expected to come in this year because I felt like last year he started to turn a corner. He took a leadership role. I felt like his aggressiveness worked. Even though there was times where he fell for the stutter steps and all that and didn't play the ball. He seemed like he was starting to turn some of those things around, and this year I have seen just about none of it. And in my eyes, there's nobody else on the team who deserves that kind of accountability other than Jalen Mills.
Yeah. I get. What was it?
Ryan does have another name.
You have one. Go ahead.
I have two, but I'll stay with one.
Okay.
Lane Johnson.
Well, that's a fair name. I would say that
That's another
Lane
fair one.
has had a he's hurt now, but he had a
Rough.
very, very rough first half of the season.
Yep.
And, I can't say Jason Peters because Jason Peters at his age coming back off of a major injury, I don't think we expected him to be, the Hall of Fame Jason Peters. He's still a force. He's still a guy who does strike fear in a defensive line and can still be a presence out there. But Lane, no excuse. I mean, Lane just he looked lost at times this year. He got beat a lot.
Honorable mention,
Mm-hmm.
Corey Clement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was my second.
I don't know that I would put him. To me, there's only one who is least valuable player, And it doesn't mean he's not a valuable player, but as the first half of the season has played out, who has been a detriment in a lot of ways. But there's an argument to be made for both of those names. Corey Clement clearly has not learned patience running in the backfield.
He's lost a step.
And I feel like for him to be, and I don't mean brash in a bad way, but to openly speak up and say you don't need to make a move, you got to step up and show it. And I've seen Wendell Smallwood step up this year in a big way. Mm-hmm. I've even seen, we talked about Josh Adams. Josh Adams has played very well in the limited opportunities that he's had. I feel like Corey is a guy who is going to be a good number 2. I'm not even going to say great, but he's going to be a very good number 2 with a unquestionable number 1 on a team someday. And you can make a hell of a career out of that, especially as an undrafted rookie. That's you. If you get a guy who has a really good career as a number 2, who was an undrafted rookie,
that's a great career.
Absolutely, that is a fantastic career. You'll make money doing that.
Yeah,
but as Corey has not stepped up to the level that we kind of had hoped that he would to this point.
As I was telling them last week, and I'll tell you because you weren't here, a lot of the counter argument because I posted on Facebook, I was kind of like bashing Corey, like, looking for like where are the Corey Clement truthers and everything now. But a lot of the backlash that I got was people saying, "Oh, he has to get more than 20-something carries in 3 games. You gotta have him play more." But the argument against that is that when you're an undrafted free agent, you have to make the most out of the limited touches you get. You need to earn it. You're not given those touches automatically just off of faith. You have to go in and prove that, okay, you can handle carries. And we're not talking about receptions because people want to come back and said he had 100 yards receiving in the Super Bowl. What do you mean? That's 100 yards receiving. We're talking about rushing. I never doubted Clement's ability in the passing game, but you're talking about the running game right now. And where has he ever shown me his ability to consistently step up as a runner to earn 15 touches a game? 15 carries a game. He hasn't. And you can't come out and say as a running back, you need to get a lot of touches to get into a rhythm. No, how about all these running backs around the league that are producing well with limited touches? Mm-hmm. And someone, I think it was Dion Brown, who mentioned, how Brian Westbrook also was a 3rd-round pick who did nothing his rookie year and then came out to have the career he had. Well, Westbrook also, his 2nd year in the league, was in a 3-headed monster backfield, and with the limited touches he got, he made plays. Mm-hmm. So don't give me that Corey Clement, and this applies to Josh Adams too, don't give me like they need more touches. You can't evaluate them on limited touches. Guys, when you're undrafted, you need to earn it. I don't care how many touches you get, you make the most out of it, and then when the coaches deem that you've earned it, that's when you get more touches. You don't automatically get it.
Yeah, and listen, nobody's taking away what he did in the Super Bowl, and really he had a really good year last year. And he also had LeGarrette Blount and Jay Ajayi in front of him as well, by the way.
Uh-huh.
But now they have a full year of film on this guy, including on the biggest stage. So teams are going to learn from watching that film this guy's tendencies, and they're going to be able to game plan around him. And we always talk about in any sport, especially when you talk about football, you talk about baseball, it's being able to make adjustments once teams start getting film and being able to study your tendencies, right? We talked about his impatience in the backfield.
Yes.
We harp on that all the time because it's such a huge thing when a guy literally just gets the ball right into the back of the freaking offensive line, right?
Yeah.
But then you look at guys like a Jay Ajayi, doesn't have, blow by you kind of speed, but what Jay does so well is he allows the holes to open up. And what Darren Sproles does, he's a small guy, but he has strong physical legs and he has speed. He's patient. He allows the offensive line and the play to develop. And listen, if that hole doesn't work, something opens up on this side, they make the adjustment. He doesn't do that. He just, this is where I got to hit. I got to hit, A gap or whatever it is. Boom. And he just goes right to it, whether it's there or not, without taking a second to let it happen. And you're running up the back of your offensive lineman, which is putting them in a whole different situation. And that's something he has to learn. That's what's going to get him to the next level. And it's disappointing that he hasn't learned that this year. But, that being said, he hasn't been awful for this team. I don't feel like he's been a detriment to this team. And at the same time, the argument can be made for him that, the expectation was he was still going to be arguably a 2 or 3 hybrid with Sproles, and Ajayi was going to be the main back. We haven't had Sproles or Ajayi this year. So it's a big adjustment. But he has to take, if you're going to tell the GM you don't need to go out and get somebody,
Then step up.
then you got to step up. You got to figure out what you're not doing to produce at the level that you are basically saying you can produce at and make it happen. And he's not doing that. It's so common to see. It's so easy to see it. And I don't know. I mean, maybe that's on the coaching. Maybe that's something with the running back coach that they got to work on. I feel like Deuce needs to sit him down and have a conversation with him.
And who's to say you are 100% right, but who's to say that Deuce hasn't tried already?
And then that falls on Corey that he's not taking in the coaching and learning from it.
Yeah. So you guys both mentioned my top 2 guys. Lane is an interesting one because even though that is right, someone could make an argument and go on the other side and say Peters, because for I'm not going to make that argument. I'm just playing devil's advocate. People could say, oh, why did we bring him back? It's a waste of money for a left tackle who's not even playing half the game, always getting hurt. So I get it, but I would go, if I'm going to pick between the two who's been more disappointment, I would go more so Lane, because he is supposed to be our bookend right tackle, and he has struggled in pass protection all year long.
He did the most talking in the offseason. Point blank, period.
Yeah. No, and that's fair. That's an absolute fair point. A lot of conversation in the chat talking about where we would put Zach Ertz as far as tight end in the league. A lot of 1 and 2 around. I'd probably throw him. He might be the number 1 tight end in the league. I don't know.
Right now, if we're talking about right now with this current season, he is number 1.
Yeah. No,
he's number 1. Gronk has struggled.
Gronk
Travis
hasn't even been able to stay on the field.
Yeah. Travis Kelce has been great. I would put Travis Kelce as number 2. Zach Ertz is number 1.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say probably 1 and 2.
And we're talking about this season.
With him and Kelce. Yeah, just
about
this season.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking overall rankings. I still have to put Gronk 1, Kelce 2.
Yeah.
But Gronk can't even stay on the field right now.
Yeah.
So
Well, Gronk's struggles this season is one of the main reasons, in my opinion, that they went out and got Josh Gordon.
Sure.
Yeah.
He fills the spot.
Amongst other things, but yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I mean, other than just trying to improve your roster, because in a way, Josh Gordon, while he's not a tight end, he fits the role.
And they also had Julian Edelman was out with a suspension, so they had some other things going on over there. It made sense, but no, I think the urgency was that they weren't getting the production out of Gronk that they normally would expect to get.
I'm glad that was brought up, because it's here. Here's something that I saw the other day after the let's see, when did the Niners play? Niners played
Thursday.
Thursday,
the Raiders.
Friday. On Twitter, this was a big debate among Eagles Twitter, and let's get your opinion and those at home. Because it was the first time on national TV and he's had a great game. There's a lot of chatter about how a lot of people bringing up, oh, George Kittle is already an elite tight end and he's already better than Zach Ertz because of his yak.
Mm-hmm.
George freaking Kittle.
First of all,
well, TTP has this season. He puts Ertz 1,
okay,
Kelce 2,
yep,
Ebron 3, Kittle 4, and Gronk 5. This season, I don't hate that.
I don't hate that list.
I'm okay with that.
I don't hate that list. Ebron has been great with Andrew Luck.
Yeah,
has stepped up in the place of Jack Doyle, and Kittle does belong in the conversation of top 5 tight end. I just have an issue with people overreacting to one primetime game and putting him already ahead of Zach Ertz because of yak. Like, Kittle is great. He's a great run blocker. I've been high on him since last year.
Mm-hmm.
His rookie year. I've been saying it. Great athlete, good all around, very physical. He's going to be he's going to be elite tight end for the upcoming future years. But there's no way I put him over Ertz right now because he just isn't the type of receiver Ertz is. Ertz is above all tight ends right now in terms of route running. Like, there's no tight end that can touch him. Ertz can get open on anyone.
Tommy asked, Tommy asked, who do we draft first round? In fairness, we don't talk draft until close to the draft.
Yes. Oh, Jesus.
We're guys. We need to study it a little bit. I don't really know, and it's going to be interesting because we still have a half a season to go. So
Yeah.
let things develop. I mean, if you're talking positionally, I might look in the secondary.
Running back.
Running back would be another place I would look. Although I do believe that they're probably going to bring Ajayi back on a one-year show-me contract.
Oh, no. That is the one comment you said last week where I didn't get a chance to mention, where we were talking about Ajayi. We already had Ajayi.
I think
like,
it just
he's not gonna go.
makes sense.
But he said that, and I was like, that's a no one else is saying.
I
that.
think you can bring him back for a year for $2, $3, $4 million, whatever. Show-me contract. Bring him back for what, $3-4 million with 2 guaranteed or whatever.
I don't see it happening, but
I do.
Here's the thing.
I do. I think it's absolutely going to happen.
Now you go into that, and I hate to touch on draft.
And I think that would change draft plans if you go wide. If you go running back first round, I think they're going to go secondary, or maybe offensive line first round.
What if this happens? Okay, hold on. What if this happens? Because we were talking
maybe
about
look for a tackle.
First of all, I don't like targeting specific positions in specific rounds. Like, I don't want to say, oh, first round we're going to get this, because I want to get the best player available usually. And, I'll say that we do need a running back, and usually you can find one in rounds 2 and 3, but I'm not saying, okay, round 2, go. Running back, go. Like, it depends on the draft class and who's available. So that's what I will address there.
Yeah, and I think he said on here, he meant position, not specific players. And I think we have the same mentality. It's more of like, I do believe in drafting the best player available, but I also believe in identifying first round, these are going to be the 2 or 3 positions.
Oh,
so
yeah,
we're going to take best player available at that. If I'm the Eagles right now and I'm looking at the 3 positions that you have to consider in the first round as the absolute must do, it's got to be secondary, and not in this order, but secondary running back or an offensive tackle.
Line, yeah, offensive tackle.
I think they're going to need a tackle.
Agree. The second thing, and this has to do with your point about Ajayi, looking at this, I've done a little bit of studying on the draft class upcoming. As of right now, there aren't many names that stand out. And that's a little discouraging because all of the top running backs have their flaws. So you're not talking about a bona fide first-round guy at all. You're talking about guys in day 2 and 3, and they all have flaws. I think that my favorite one right now is Bryce Love, and then also David Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
But they all have flaws. Clay Ferguson, our boy on Facebook, he mentioned to me DeAndre Swift out of Georgia. DeAndre Swift, I don't know if you guys know, DeAndre Swift, running back out of Philly, who is projected to be coming out the following year, not this class, but the following year, is going to be a top talent. He is going to be a round 1 running back. What if we signed Jay Ajayi to 1 year? Because Howie is looking ahead to DeAndre Swift, potentially getting him and targeting him for the following draft.
No, my whole thing is this, and then I just found a developing story, by the way, in the NFL, so I'll get to that in a second because it could be very big. It could be official in a moment.
I think I see what you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, I'll just say that. So, all points. I mean, Des Bryant is now negotiating a deal with New Orleans, and all signs point to him signing with them. So, within the next hour or two, it looks like he's going to be in New Orleans.
And that makes sense. I mean, I know the New Orleans auditioned 3 receivers. One of them was him. The other was Brandon Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who the third one was. But I know that they were auditioning all 3 guys today or yesterday, and they were looking to bring one of those guys in. So, no surprise. I think he'll do very well there. I think that's a huge signing for them. Yeah, I think that's a great landing spot for him.
I think that's a good landing spot.
I think that's going to be tough on us. It's another.
Oh, we'd have to play.
We're not winning that game anyway.
Dear Lord. Yeah, we are not. I don't see it happening.
The one thing I had on Ajayi, real quick. If they sign Ajayi, that means they're absolutely drafting a running back in the top 3, rounds. And this is not like the Eagles. I want them to go after Tevin Coleman. That's who I want.
Yeah, that's who I want too.
Historically, that's not what the Eagles do.
Yeah.
You got to worry now because you have to take all things into account that number 11 is right around the corner. We can't do what we've been able to do. You don't have the luxury of having your quarterback on his rookie contract anymore. Yeah. Those days are done. They're going to have to be creative, whether it's through free agency, it's through trade, restructuring contracts. Those days, I think somebody had mentioned in here, might have been SJM, had said Eagles will make a splash on free agency and get an offensive tackle or defensive end and load those spots in the draft. I don't know that they're going to make a huge wide receiver, free agent splash this year. I think the focus is going to end up being on the draft because, as we said, right around the corner is number 11. If they're going to make a move, it's going to be with their own guys, and I think you're going to be looking at maybe if the chemistry is there, they'll take a shot at bringing Golden Tate back. I could make the argument that if that's the case, if Golden Tate and Carson Wentz build a rapport, I might now let Nelson walk and sign Golden Tate.
Real quick to that, that's the sentiment I had, but I did learn that the Eagles in fact did pick up Aguilar's option, his 5th-year option, and if they let him go next year, they don't get a compensatory pick back.
No.
So it's going to be hard to see Aguilar go because of that option.
And that's a possibility as well. So we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that if we do make acquisitions in free agency, I think it will be short-term contracts. You're not going to see these big-name 3-4 year deals, which is something Howie hasn't been doing. So I guess there is a chance there. But assuming that they're going to pick up Wentz's team option, which means we have next year, which will be the final year of his rookie deal, and then the year after, which would be the option year, you have 2 years until that big money contract kicks in for Wentz. So if we do any signings, it's going to be 1 or 2 years so that he has that flexibility. It's not going to be anything long-term.
Tommy asked, do we bring back Bennett for another year? He's been playing pretty good. I think
depends on the situation.
Yeah, it's going to depend on what their view is as far as what their needs are going to be at the end of the year.
He was my backup or my honorable mention for MVP for the first half.
Mm-hmm.
No one's really people were talking about him, but
that's why I mentioned him there.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
No, I mean, I agree. And again, the most in-your-face answer would be Zach Ertz because of the level that he's played at all season. But when this team has started to turn it around, I think that I would go with you as him as number 2 as well because, to me, different team when Alshon came back, different passing game. Same thing with the defense. Guys have been going down. We always talk about next man up. He's taken more of a role, and he has absolutely flourished in it.
He's been the biggest difference on defense for this entire team all season so far.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Do you have any other awards to
Yeah,
give?
I had, and I'm getting
fun.
this off of I'm doing my article for this week is pretty much first half season awards.
Oh, sweet.
I gave funky names to the awards.
Please.
So this one is
You're so weird.
What the fuck are you doing award, which goes to the worst play of the season.
Anything that Jalen Mills did in the secondary.
I have Corey Graham's 4th and 15.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. I'll give you that one.
Can I put just the entire overtime period of the Titans game?
Yeah.
True.
No, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah, those are that Titans game, the overtime thing was bad.
And the entire fourth quarter of the Panthers game? Please?
Yes.
And thank you.
Yes, that's yeah.
Thank
and
you.
then the last award I had was pretty much the Let's Go award, which is the best play best moment, most memorable play of the half season.
So to me, and I was in the crowd for it, the obvious is Carson coming back just because that's where it was now the season's starting. But we talked about this kind of on the way over to the studio. It's tough. There's not as many highlight reel type of plays that we've seen this season. You could talk about some of the plays and touchdowns that Alshon's had since he's come back. To me, it was Carson and his return, but it was the first drive and the touchdown to Dallas Goedert. That represented a lot to me because it's all right, Carson's back. And to me, it was all right, this kid Goddard, instant connection. This kid's going to be a part of this team. Now, maybe not as much this year, but I'm looking long-term, and I'm like, this kid's going to be something special with Carson throwing the football to him. So that showed me a lot. It got me pumped up, not just for now, but for what I'm going to be seeing going forward. So that would be my moment.
I have two,
Go ahead.
but it's the same deal. The red zone stop week 1 at the end,
That's a great one,
and
too,
the red
yeah.
zone stop week
Good
3 against the Colts.
Oh, good
yeah,
one. Good one. With Barnett,
yeah, and I was there for that. It was the same game with Goddard.
Yeah, I have 2 as well. My first one is, we all do week 3. Week 3 is going to be yeah.
There you go.
That's another one.
Shame on me.
I was going to mention that, but it would be week 3. If you guys remember, I already told this to Chrome, but Brodo, the Sidney Jones play, where he pretty much fought through the block of the wide receiver.
Oh,
And-
how could I forget
And
that play?
had the one arm where he was holding the wide receiver,
Oh God.
and he was until Jalen Mills came in.
Yeah.
That was a monster. That was Sidney Jones' best play of the season. And then the second one was Avonte Maddox's forced fumble in London, which because if the Jaguars this is crunch time. If the Jaguars go down at the end of halftime and score any points, it could be a totally different
It
game.
changes the
But
entire
that
complexion
changed
of
the
game.
entire game, and it could have changed it. That could be the one play in the season where we're like, that's what saved it. That's what saved it. So I'll put those 2.
Shout out to D Love 120798. Philly Special Part 2. How fucking
Yeah,
stupid do
that
I
was-
feel right now that I didn't even mention that
How
play?
stupid do I feel? I literally went to that same game and I
Oh
didn't
my
pick that
God.
play.
I can't
I
believe
remember that play. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My other play is my number 2. Yes, the Philly Special Part 2 was clearly the best play, the individual highlight play of the year for sure.
Bro, to put it in perspective, it was so much of a let's go, hurrah type of a play
It was awesome.
at the end. Well, that play and the end of the the Falcons game.
Mm-hmm.
You have to remember, I was over on the other side of the world. It was 4:30 in the morning there,
Mhm.
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm going insane on the
Oh, my
freaking boat.
gosh. Yeah, that is.
That's true. That's very, very,
I
very
didn't
true.
sleep, and I'm going ape the entire time.
Yep. So those were the awards. I'm trying to come up with more award categories for my article before it comes out on Thursday. But yeah, those are the 5 I thought of.
I'll give you a topic.
Yeah, go ahead.
Or an award. Something surrounding the coaches.
Mm.
Like biggest disappointment in the coaches and maybe or you can maybe say organizationally, because I think if you just go coaches, the easy answer is Schwartz. But if you go organization, I think some people are going to put Howie in this.
Like a disappointment.
Yes. Even with the Golden Tate move, because people were talking about LeGarrette Blount should be here.
About more. Okay.
Peters should have been gone. Sproul should have been gone. So there's levels to it.
I think and this goes back to what I was talking. I wrote an article last week, and it was about was it last week or the week before? Well, I forget. I talked about, and you're talking about Howie. I think we are seeing the effects, the negative repercussions of Howie's lack of draft, Howie's misses in the 2017 draft. Because if you go back and you look at who was in that draft, you had first round was Derek Barnett, who was playing well, but then he got hurt. Sidney Jones, who was playing well this year, missed all first year, but playing well this year, but now he's hurt. After them, even though you can say they were hits, they're looking good, it starts to get a little fuzzy. Because now you talk about Rasul Douglas.
Good. I like him.
You do like him, but here's my point. Rasul Douglas, a 3rd round pick, who before injuries occurred was not able to get on the field over Jalen Mills, was not able to get on the field at safety over Avonte Maddox, a rookie slot corner, and who was continually not getting reps over some of the other guys. They signed a McDougal to play slot before they played Rasul Douglas. So something's there. Something's either wrong with the coaches or wrong with Rasul. So there's that. Rasul, your 3rd round pick. After that, Mac Hollins, out the year. After that, you not mention his name, Donnell Pumphrey, practice squad. After that, you have a bunch of other guys, late round picks who weren't going to hit anyways. But those 3 misses so far, which is right now they're not contributing, so you can safe to say right now they're misses. Cornerback, wide receiver, running back. What are the 3 positions that we were lacking of before the trade deadline? Cornerback, wide receiver, running back. if Howie had done a better job hitting on those picks, we wouldn't be talking about, oh, we need a wide receiver, cornerback, and running back. If he had gotten in that draft class, traded up to get Kamara, traded up to get Hunt, or had selected a James Conner, or selected an Aaron Jones, not Donnell Pumphrey, we wouldn't be talking about needing a running back. In a historic running back draft class, which Howie had mentioned and admitted was a great running back draft class, he came away with Donnell Pumphrey, who was on the practice squad.
That's your boy.
So I think that if you're going to talk about Howie as being a disappointment, you're talking about Howie's mishap, and you want to include Joe Douglas because he's the draft guy. Their mishap last year in the draft is paying negative effects on us this year. Thank God we got Golden Tate. But what is your third-round corner doing, Russell Douglas, if he's not on the field? What is he contributing? Because that's now a wasted pick, too, if he's not even going to get on the field over Avonte Maddox, over McDougal, or over any of these other guys when we clearly need a playmaker at corner.
I would hit the applause button, but I don't have one. I'll get one for next
Right?
year.
Like it's
Can you hear
and
it?
we love Howie, but it is what it is. Right now that draft class is hurting us. That 2017 draft class is absolutely hurting us.
A great question here. Well, we kind of answered it, though, but I think I can answer for both of us, or all of us, really. And this one was from SJM. He says, here's a question for everyone. Who from last year that you were high on this year has you scratching your head? Don't say Jalen because we knew he was duct tape. Corey Clement, I think, is the clear answer for that.
Yeah.
There's nobody else I really feel like that's taken steps back or that has really disappointed me on that caliber.
Aguilar. That's not. I mean, he's not one, but he's in the conversation.
Okay, because I will be fair because I did say at the beginning of the show I expected him to take the next step, and he's just been.
Yeah, see, I don't think he's taken a step back.
He hasn't taken a step back.
I don't think he's done anything to step forward.
Yeah.
And I think that he has been a little bit lost in the shuffle at least the last 3 weeks or so, 3-4 weeks.
Chris Long? He's not hyped, but
didn't expect a lot out of it.
He was getting a lot of talk last year. That's why, like, it's fair, but it's not. Like, I expected a lot of Corey, and I still do. Like, this is a rough patch. It's not like his career is going to be done or anything, but I don't know if we can expect a ton of things out of a guy who was, number one, never projected to be our star running back, who was supposed to be Ajayi.
Right.
And two, he's still an undrafted running back.
Right. See, I'm looking at it more of less of an older veteran type of a thing and looking at more of young guys who excited me coming into this year, which is why I throw Corey Clement in there. Nelson is a name you could absolutely throw in. I don't knock you for that.
I feel like I'm forgetting one.
Yeah, I'm trying to scan through.
I mean, Darby's a good one.
No, I think Darby's, even though he's been inconsistent, there has been games where Darby has been, without a doubt, like a very good piece in the secondary. It's just that he has these lapses where he's just like he makes one bad play and makes you forget all of the other good plays.
Yeah, because I mean,
you know what I mean?
If I really want to answer it overall, whether we're throwing veterans, everybody, Lane Johnson's the answer. Lane Johnson has your head scratching this year. Like, is this the same guy? I mean, other than them, I don't know. There's nobody that really I'm like overly shocked about.
It's a great question, though.
That was a great question.
Yeah, Two Gun's been asking something for a little bit. He said, will we be looking at a lot of new faces next year? Guys leaving, big turnover?
Yes. I believe so. I really do believe so. I think this is the upcoming year, this offseason is going to be, and this is why, again, I wanted to keep so many draft picks, is because you're going to see a lot of these guys leaving. You need to restock.
Especially the line.
And people get, both sides of the line are getting older. All right. And you need to restock. If that was our strongest point of the Super Bowl run, we need to restock with talent there if we're going to make any other Super Bowl run.
Yeah.
So I think there is going to be a lot
Offensive line, I think, is definitely more of a need than the defensive line right now because there's still a lot of young pieces. I think part of the reason they need to restock on defense is because for them it is a front eight, so they like to have a really deep defensive line in order for this defense to function as it's needed to succeed. But as far as more of an immediate need, it's the offensive line, 100% in my eye. Offensive tackle, you need a tackle. Jason Peters is I think it's the end of the road for him. I'm not confident in Vaitai. Although my boy, the GOAT, Mailata, I'm expecting big things.
Fullback.
We all want to see him at fullback.
Just give me one, all right? Then I'll shut up
Just
forever. I'll shut up forever. Just give
We
me
all
one. I
do
don't care
wanna
if he
see
fumbles. Just prove me
Oh,
wrong.
man.
Maybe like when we're up by like 40
Oh.
against Dallas. Just give me one, please.
Yeah,
I'll shut
no,
up.
I
I'll
hear
never
you.
say his name ever again.
I hear
Listen,
ya.
when this guy has a Hall of Fame career, just remember who was the one guy who was on his side after the draft.
I want him to be the best
It was this
Australian
guy.
Eagles player of all time.
Remember that, fam. If you watched our shows back then, this guy was on the Mailata train right away.
Definitely. Oh,
That's a
man.
good one.
Mailata, I do think I hope by next year he starts to get some reps as like a backup. You know what I mean? 'Cause
Eagles
he's not.
Have to, yeah.
He's not going. He's right now. He's like deep in the reserves, but I mean, hope he takes the next step and is like one of the key backups.
Eagles Forever says, yeah, and I love Lane, but 3 sack fumbles given this year, horrible. Agreed. Tommy says, I'm glad Ajayi's gone. Everyone, or every time he runs, I'm assuming he's saying, I cringe like he's going to get hurt. Liability.
What?
That is.
You're glad Ajayi's
Wait,
gone?
wait.
considering the running backs?
No. See, that, and we talked about this before, and I've proven it. I'll have to pull the numbers up again, is actually a false narrative because in his professional career, he has never missed any kind of a significant amount of time since he's been a professional with Miami and with the Eagles.
Thank you.
This is the first time in his career that he is hurt. Now, it's a false narrative because he did get hurt in college. He has
The
a
lingering knee
chronic knee injury.
So people automatically think that he's been hurt.
But it's also been stated by doctors, and we talked about this last year. There was an interview given by a doctor who's a specialist with chronic knee issues and knee injuries, who had said he's a young guy who, if put in a right scenario, like what the Eagles did last year, where they do a little more of a committee and then, kind of how they did, he can take more of a load later. That chronic knee injury isn't something that would really be worrisome for another 4 or 5 years. You can get a high productivity
it's
out
a
of him.
long-term
So
issue, not
if
a
you
short-term.
actually look back at his injuries, it's a bad narrative that was given by the national sports media when he first came here, and it was not fair to him. 'Cause
Exactly.
his history on the field is on the field.
Yes, I was the one that brought it up because I did the research. His only in terms of he had that knee injury, the bad knee injury in college. His rookie year he had broken ribs. Ever since then, he hasn't missed a game due to injury. He's had knickknacks here and there, but he hasn't missed time until now. And everyone, this is what I hate about, it's annoying about his injury now because everyone's like, oh, I told you so. He's made of glass.
Yeah,
No,
no,
you
it's not
just
true.
got lucky because he has.
Well, we didn't get lucky.
Well, not lucky, but no, it's just unfortunate because he has an injury to his back, not his knee. His knee is the thing that you guys are always, so many people out there are always on him about, oh, that knee could explode. Well, that his back is the thing that got hurt. What I did also was I asked a lot of my friends through text messages, a lot of group messages that I'm on. I told them, guys, since his rookie year, give me the amount of games that you believe Ajayi has missed due to injury. They all said, oh, maybe 10, 15, like that. And I said none, and everyone was stunned.
Jay?
You know what that means? That means that it's all public perception.
This is not playoff games included. Ajayi played 9 games his rookie year.
Rib injury was, yeah.
15 games in 2016, and he played 14 games last year.
2015 was he missed one game because that was the flight to London where he got into, or was it to London or somewhere where they were on the road. He missed the flight, and that's where Adam
And they
Gase,
sat him.
It was
where they
LA.
sat him
It was
in LA. The 2 games he missed last year are his 2 bye weeks because he was traded to the Eagles before we had
So
our
he
bye
has
week.
never
Missed a game
Sin-
due
well,
to injuries.
in the
since rookie
last 2 years, he hadn't missed
single
any
game.
games because of an injury, and then he had the rib injury his rookie year.
Yep.
But
Chucks, I will tell you that, and I don't disagree with what you're. I mean, obviously, he hasn't missed a ton of games, and people think he has. I'll just tell you the reason why the narrative has continued to gain life all his entire career, basically, especially here in Philadelphia. It's because his name is constantly on the injury report.
Yes.
During the week, he's always a storyline. Even if he's questionable leading into games. Now, he always ends up playing, but he's always a storyline from Monday to Friday about, oh, he missed practice. Oh, it's dinged up. And most of the time now, like you said, he hasn't missed time due to it, but it's been about that knee.
Mhm.
Going back to, obviously, the
Maintenance.
playoffs.
That's fine.
All
That's fine.
through, from the Raiders game to the Vikings game, every week, it was, oh, okay, he needs to rest the knee.
And that you are not wrong. What I would say to everyone else is that let's adjust your thinking for a moment. Because, for one, the running back position is one of the most physically punishing positions, if not the most physically punishing positions in football, because you are the one getting hit. You are getting tackled and brought to the ground. I get linemen are constantly being physical, like on both sides of the line, but they can attack. Like running backs, they are being the ones attacked. They're getting tackled to the ground. 2, you have a guy who is battling injuries week in, week out. I get it, and it's something that knee had to be maintenance constantly. But at the same time, you need to stop looking at the injury report and looking at time missed, because toughness is another element of a player's, like, when it comes to evaluating a player. How is he going to play on an injury, or is he going to play on an injury? What are you going to say about guys like David Johnson, who has missed multiple games in his career, and especially all last year, due to a knee injury? Other guys in the league, Le'Veon Bell, we talked about. You even mentioned him, Brodo. Le'Veon Bell has also missed time due to injury. But no one talks about those other guys.
how about when
being
Le'Veon Bell
injured?
misses
Well,
time because he's too busy smoking
Smoking
weed?
Well,
weed.
that's what I was going to
So-
say. When people talk about Le'Veon missing time, it's because he's holding out and it's because
Listen,
he's been
I mean-
suspended. It overshadows
So
the fact that
there's
he's been injured.
just to end my point. There's a misconception because people need to adjust their thinking, because they want to directly talk about, and this is a lot of it. My point is it's media driven, because they continually talk about Ajayi being made of glass, but refuse to mention other running backs who have injury history as well.
I take these guys who are questionable during the week with a grain of salt. Listen, I mean, I don't put this is not a fantasy football thing, but with my fantasy football teams, I'm constantly all day getting the same guys every week. It's saying status changed from healthy to questionable, and then changed from questionable to healthy by the end of the week, and they play every week in fantasy. It's nothing uncommon. It's just like it's going through the steps and the precautions. We also live in the city that did we not watch, and it's a different sport, but it's the same thing. You're talking about toughness. We watched Allen Iverson be hurt day in and day out and still get out there on the court and play. There are certain guys that have higher thresholds of pain that can – the thing, when you have a chronic issue, you learn how to play with it.
Yeah.
You learn how to do things to compensate for it. So just because it's a quote-unquote chronic issue, we're not used to being – if I have a knee issue, maybe I'm not used to constantly being or straining it and doing this and that and putting more stress on it to where I have to learn how to be able to do that. But these guys, they know their bodies. They're freak athletes. They learn how to compensate for that and do things so that they don't make it as bad or to elongate their careers. And that's also the job of the coaching staff. It's also the job of all the trainers and everybody else. Like you said, to me, I look and see how many times has this guy been on the field and how productive has he been when he's been on the field. That's what I look at.
That's what, and it's not a perfect analogy because they're two different tiers. But let me remind everyone also that My favorite player, Brian Westbrook, was constantly on the injury report. Even Brian Dawkins would talk about it when he's talking about Westbrook. Every week, he's nursing a different injury. He would be limited in practice. But on average, Westbrook missed 2 games a year during his season with his time with the Eagles. But you don't hear people talk about, oh, like, I'm glad Westbrook is not playing because he was concerned. No, like, I will never, ever, ever bash Ajayi for being injury prone when I know, for one, what we've just been talking about, and two, guys, he was playing out there for several games with a broken back, and then his last game that he played, he tore his ACL and still played through it. Guys, he tore his ACL and still played through it. I am never going to bash the guy because he is tough. And I wanted to mention this in my no huddle. I forgot a few weeks ago. I saw a picture of Ajayi on crutches on the sideline for the London game, and I'm telling you, I choked up because you talk about the one game that probably meant, besides the Super Bowl, of course, probably meant so much to him because he is kind of like the league's ambassador since he's from London, and the fact that he had to be on the sideline like that, my heart went out to him. You have a guy who gave us his all and was that missing piece for the Super Bowl championship last year, and he's on the sideline. That's huge. So anyone that wants to bash Ajayi, I'm sorry, I'll be the first to defend him. He deserves better than that.
All right, we're gonna move on to that from that real quick. Keys to the game: Eagles, Cowboys. I always wear my Reggie White jersey for Cowboys week. I'll be making sure I wear this on Sunday night as well. So give me your keys to victory for the Eagles, Cowboys. Pressure on Dak, 100%, because he's not a great decision maker. Stopping the run.
Stopping the run, not only with Zeke, but with Dak.
Yeah.
You're not going to be beat with Dak from the pocket. If you're going to get beat, you're going to get beat because you're not able to contain Dak outside the pocket and from him running. Okay. On defense, that's the first key. You have to these defensive ends have to make sure they contain and they don't lose their containment on the edges, because if once Dak gets out there, like we saw it with Blake Bortles, in London, Blake Bortles was beating us because of his legs. There has to be an adjustment there. They have to account for Dak on the run because that's how he's going to beat them. That's how they would beat us. On offense, I know he's new, just acquired, but Golden Tate is already one of the keys to the game. And that's because I say that because the Dallas Cowboys, believe it or not, they have a good defense. They have a pass rush. With Lane Johnson out and Jason Peters being Jason Peters, DeMarcus Lawrence might have a field day with Vitae. He might have a field day with Vitae. Okay? So, what is one way you can protect Wentz other than the running game? Quick passes. Who did we just get? Golden Tate. Let him get the ball to him. And real quick, what happened to the Detroit Lions this past week without Golden Tate? Yep. Matt Stafford got sacked 10 times against the Vikings.
Golden Tate.
You need to check it down to Golden Tate.
Golden Tate played against the Cowboys this year on the 30th of September. He was 8 for 8 when targeted. He had 132 yards, 2 touchdowns, 16.5 yards per catch. So this is a lot better offense that you're trotting out there. And listen, this is a chance for them to roll him out in grand fashion and really do something with the passing game. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head on a lot of things. I think this is going to be one of those games that the Eagles are going to need to get up. It's going to be an emotional game. This is your chance to drive the nail in the coffin of the Dallas Cowboys and look ahead and who you're chasing, which is the Washington Redskins. And I agree with you. I think Golden Tate's going to have a big game. I don't know if he's going to have 132 yards, but I think that they are going to instantly implement Golden Tate. And that bye week, huge for being able to make sure he can come in and have a little bit more than what we saw last year with Ajayi. Was what? How many plays did he learn before that game, Ajayi?
Like only a little bit.
It was
a few.
Yeah, it was
simple, basic stuff. They
like
weren't
a handful, and look at what he was able to do in his
Yeah.
debut last year. So I think that he's going to be a big key, and obviously it's going to be containing Dak. And they need to shut down, they need to shut down Amari Cooper. That's going to be it. The secondary is going to have to be able to shut down Amari Cooper because right now he's really the only reliable passing option that they have right now. So that's it. You pretty much killed it. So
Two-Gun Tommy did ask, and he's talking about Ajayi. Okay, if he's not a problem, why not re-sign him? There's twofold to that. One, you don't know if Ajayi like that. Those injuries that he just had, especially with the torn ACL on. And I forget if it was the knee that he was already.
I think it was the other knee.
Was it the other knee? With two bad knees and that broken back, when is he going to be able to come back to full health? And two is what type of contract is he going to look for? So you don't know if he like what he's gonna does he want to stay in Philly or does he want to go somewhere
I'm going
else?
to keep it short and simple so we can get to know Huddle. I think they will bring him back, and I think that his best chance to rebuild his stock value is going to be with this team. He's already going to have some kind of an incentive-based deal with a low guarantee. I think that he comes back here on a one-year show-me deal. So I do believe that they're going to bring him back, and I believe they'll be open to bringing him back. That being said, no Huddle. Who wants to start?
I'll start
Ryan Broda wants to start. So
Go ahead,
you
John.
didn't raise
Go ahead.
No, he didn't raise his hand first. I want you to
No,
start.
go ahead. You can start.
So TTP, he puts in the chat too. TTP asked my thoughts on it earlier, right when we started. I promised him I would talk about it.
See, fam, you guys get to join No Huddle too. I like
Yeah.
it. I'm digging it. I like it.
He asked me to share my thoughts on how to get Jimmy Butler here in Philadelphia.
Ooh.
And for you, TTP, because I like you, I'm going to give you two scenarios for two separate players.
Okay.
Jimmy Butler and a guy I think we'd all love to have in Philadelphia. His name is Bradley Beal.
Ooh.
I'd like Bradley.
I'm going to start with Bradley Beal because, in all honesty, if we get him here, first off, he's not a rental. B, I believe he's a better player. And C, I think he's a better fit.
Yes.
And the guy is only, 25, 26 years old? I understand age doesn't mean winning because, obviously, we have one of the youngest teams in the NBA, and we haven't gotten really anywhere so far. I'm going to talk about Beal first, okay? Now, and I looked at this earlier. I wrote it down a few days ago because Washington, by all means, disastrous start to their season. John Wall is not the same, so their ceiling is very, very low. So the chance of trying to get Beal out of D.C. and get him over to Philly is more likely than ever, in my opinion. Now, you're going to have to give up a lot for him, but I'll just give you this, okay? And tell me if any of these guys are untouchable, because before the season, over the summer, some of these guys are untouchable. I don't think they are anymore. I think you would have to give up Dario, Covington, Fultz, and the 2021 first-round pick. Does that sound like it's ridiculous to you? Because at the moment, especially going forward, if I know Dario Saric is going to spend the first 2 months absolutely sucking on the basketball court because his legs are still heavy from the summer, okay, I'm not dealing with that. Covington, really?
Rocco's had a better year so far than Dario has, though,
And
for
that's,
sure.
That's bad. That's really bad. Markelle Fultz, I love the kid, but it's becoming very obvious that the kid can play, but with this timeline of where this team is at, we're trying to win a championship.
Yeah.
We don't have time to develop him as our number one. So with that being said, the best thing for his career and the best thing for the Sixers right now
Go
is to
somewhere
trade
where he can
him.
develop, yeah.
Yes.
I agree.
Okay.
And that's sad because I think the kid can really have a good future, be a solid player in this league. Just not on the Sixers, unfortunately.
Okay.
The 2021 pick, first off, it's not going the 2021 pick, if it's ours or if it's the Heat's, it's not going to be a top 10 pick. It's not going to be. So is that really attractive to us? No. So with that being said, that's what I would give up for Beal.
Yeah.
Now, with Butler, it's not going to be as much, especially because it's a rental. I think you would have to give up Fultz, Dario, and the first pick.
Yeah.
That's what you would have to do.
I'd rather have Beal, but
Of course.
I would have no problem with either one of those two, to be honest with you.
I'd love to have
He
Beal.
says, I give that up for Jimmy. So the deal I said. So that's
it seems
I mean,
a
it's
little
not
steep
that
for Jimmy, but
it's not that much of a difference. It's just throwing Rocco in,
Sure.
and maybe like you might have to put in another future pick for Beal, but at this point, I do it because the guy's locked up for another 3-4 years.
agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. I'm going to give a shout out to my boy Philip Rivers, fourth quarterback to reach 200 consecutive games. We'll start 200 consecutive games. Right now, the active Ironman quarterback, only how many games is he away from Eli? 10 games away from Eli. For number 2 all-time under Brett Favre. Listen, I've said this forever. I'll continue to say it. Philip Rivers is the most underappreciated quarterback of his generation, hands down. He is such he's a true skilled quarterback. You know, I don't think a lot of favors were done for him. He's had very good players, some Hall of Fame players, but constantly having, you know, different coaching staffs and different things and different schemes constantly running, and I feel like he's still managed to play at a very high level. I don't really feel like he was ever given a true opportunity to win with the Chargers, but he's stuck with the Chargers. I love Philip Rivers. I love this team this year. I think they have a chance to surprise some people in the AFC. And a great comparison that was given to me today for Philip Rivers, when you talk about quarterbacks all time who were underappreciated and never won a Super Bowl ring, was Warren Moon. And I felt like that was a great comparison when you look at what they've done in their career and not having a Super Bowl ring. I hope that changes. I hope that he does win a ring at some point. But I just want to give a shout out to Philip Rivers because I love this guy, always have, and I think that there's a lot to be said for a guy who can get out there constantly, year in and year out, and play and start every game.
I do want to read SJM's really quick because it's a story.
Sure.
And he
I was
going to
read that.
Oh, go ahead,
Yeah.
please. By all means.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Oh, were you finished?
That's it.
Oh,
Just
cool.
saying congrats.
So my first huddle, and I'm glad he touched on it because it had to do with my first no huddle topic was SJM says I met James Conner 2 years ago at a UPMC hospital in Pittsburgh when he was receiving treatment. My grandfather-in-law was dying, and we were there every day for weeks. He took time to say hello since he was in the same hall. I've never ever forgotten. Good for him. I hope he balls out forever. Le'Veon Bell's douche. I've never met someone so down to earth. We talked for a couple hours and played spades. I remember wishing him well and told him I hope the Eagles take a chance on him. He said he hoped to stay in PA. I know Chucks loves Kareem Hunt. Any player other than an Eagle, James Conner is my dude. And
I dig that. I like that,
yeah,
man. That's
I
a
love
great
that
story.
story.
Yeah.
I love that
Cool
story.
story.
One, yes, Kareem Hunt's my guy. Two, though, James Conner, and I feel like I wanted to put him in my no huddle because I've been getting a lot of flack from some people on Facebook because I don't put James Conner as a tier 1 running back. I put him at tier 2, which I don't think is a slight at all. But I want to give James Conner love because, one, I picked it up in 2 of my leagues and he's been an absolute savior. 2, I think his story is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And I love what he's done for not only for himself, but for everyone who's been in that situation that he's had where he's battled cancer and just given hope. And I love what James Conner's been able to do this season. He has taken, I think without him, the Steelers would be in trouble.
Oh, without question.
Without question. I think that with the whole Le'Veon Bell thing, I think when Le'Veon Bell comes back, one, I think James Conner still needs to get significant touches still. If it's going to be 50-50, I think that's the least amount James Conner should have because I think he's earned the right to still be at least the lead back. 2, I think Le'Veon Bell, when he comes back, not only needs to address the team, just to make sure they're on the same page, and he says, listen, I did this because I felt it was the right thing to do for myself and for the running back position in the league, blah, blah, blah. But I also think he needs to say, thank you, James Conner, for doing what you did.
Agreed.
Because James Conner has not only matched, but exceeded the production Le'Veon Bell has. Now, a lot of it has to a lot of it might have to do with lack of attention or less attention that Connor is getting as opposed to what Bell was getting. But regardless of that, Connor has been lights out. And I am rooting for Connor every single game because I think not only what he's been able to mold himself as a player, because in college he was a power back.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, he's not just a power back. He moves a lot better. He's lost weight. He's become more explosive than he ever was and become a better receiver. So all around, I think James Conner, I think he was the player of the month for the NFL for the offensive player of the month, I think for the AFC. He deserves all the credit, and I love what he's done. So shout out to James Conner. I think that he deserves all the success that he's gotten so far and more. And I hope he stays as a Steelers running back for years and years.
Agreed.
So Chucks and I talked about something during the break. So over on our social media, we put out the question. It was about Josh Adams. And we asked the people to share their opinions on Josh Adams, rate him from 1 to 10. And like Chucks and I discussed, we have some interesting responses. So I want to read some for the kind audience. And Chucks, if you see any that I don't mention, by all means do as well, okay?
Sure.
So
this should be interesting.
This is what we'll do, okay? Because I feel like
He shared the music with us. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I love it.
I feel like
This is usually Brodo's monologue music.
when certain people talk about Josh Adams, especially in our comment section, it gets quite emotional.
Yeah, it does. It does. It gets very emotional.
People call him the forgotten son of Philadelphia. Somehow, some way, he's been only around for about 5 months, but that's fine. Only seen the field for about 3 games, but that's fine. He was justifiably so our, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but our 5th running back on the roster. Okay? And that's without Donald Humphrey, by the way. But, these are what some people have to say. And there are some guys that actually watch football and say, oh, no, he's a 5 at best. He's somebody that maybe could have a bright future, but we have to see. And maybe just because he was our 5th running back, maybe that's, I don't know, for a reason. But there's a couple guys out there. Well, we're going to talk about them right now.
Let's go.
Starting with Russ, he says, give him a chance. See what he's got. Can't be less productive than Smallwood or Clement. Like them both, just not producing. Oh, Smallwood hasn't done anything, right? He hasn't had a resurgence in his career.
Oh my
But that's fine. Let's move on. Oh, let's go to Will Pierce, even better. Got to give him at least 18 touches against Dallas. See what the kid's got.
It hurts.
May not need a draft. May not need to draft a thing next year if the kid's good. Oh, wait. So let me get this straight. Not only did we not need to make any moves in the trade deadline because we had Josh Adams. We could have had LeGarrette Blount here. But now we don't need to draft a running back because of an undrafted. He wasn't even drafted. And then Justin Pope agrees, saying facts. None of that 2 to 3 touches and benching like earlier in the season. Even if he ends up being as great as we need him to be, I'd still draft another running back to be on the safe side. Yeah, you're not kidding, Justin. And it goes on and on and on. I digress. That was fun.
The forgotten.
My
son.
eyes are bleeding.
The forgotten son.
I literally saw that 3 times. The forgotten son of Philadelphia.
Which, by the way, speaking of our social media, if you're not in the Real Talk group, get in our Real Talk group. It's good stuff over there.
Oh,
Yeah.
I need a shower.
My last no huddle is UFC 230. Daniel Cormier defends his title against Derek Lewis, who Derek Lewis, listen, is a highly entertaining fighter. Mm-hmm. You talk about a guy who kind of gets how to sell himself. He sold himself into a world heavyweight title shot in a match that, with all due respect, he probably had no business being in, at least to this point. But I'm a big Daniel Cormier fan. DC, one of the greatest of all time. Setting up the next big fight of Daniel Cormier and Brock Lesnar. And I loved his promo at the end where he told Brock, bring that brand new WWE title. I'll take that from you, too. Loved that.
Cormier in 2.
Oh, I think Cormier, it might not make it to 2 because I'll tell you what, Brock gasses out pretty quick. And, You know, Brock's a lot older at this point. I think Cormier is a stud.
The only reason why I have it going too, it's because Lesnar's way bigger.
Sure.
That's the only reason. I think Cormier, and two, he's going to be slow at the get-go because he knows Brock's not going to be able to last for an entire fight.
Brock don't like to get hit in the face. If he can hit him a couple times, give him some nice shots in the face, that's going to throw Brock off immediately, and Brock's going to gas out. He's not going to have any energy to get past 1.5.
SJM puts Lesnar's about to take him to Suplex City, son.
Maybe Paul Heyman will escort him out. That'd be amazing.
Please.
But, no, man, shout out to Cormier. Listen, it's going to be a big money fight. I don't expect much in regards to the actual fight. I think Cormier is going to absolutely destroy him. But I'm looking forward to that fight when it finally happens.
My last no huddle. It's going to be just 2 quick ones. One.
My last one, but I have
Dallas,
2.
Yeah. Dallas sucks. The loss against the Titans last night was amazing.
Yeah.
Seeing all those fans like toward the end of the game, and then with a minute and something left, seeing Jason Garrett clap his hands. It's like, what the heck are you doing?
How about the Philly special,
what the
huh?
heck are you doing? How about the Philly special? Oh my gosh, that was great. So I love that loss. And 2, Nick Mullins, guys.
He's getting the start.
Beyond Nick Mullins, look what Kyle Shanahan has been able to do.
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan is a genius. And I'll leave it off of that.
And real quick, last real quick no huddle shout out to Stephen A. Smith for a fantastic segment with Michael Irvin before the game. Game day, absolutely trolling the Cowboys fans right in the center of them. It was amazing with his list. I know we don't love Stephen A.
That is the one thing
One
I
of the
will
best
always
things.
I like him.
That is the one thing I will
I've
love
never
about
really
Stephen
been a huge Stephen A. hater. I think he's a little over the top, obviously, but one of the best things I've ever seen anybody do.
I'll watch that all day.
You talk about the Skip Bayless, which, by the way, also the Skip Bayless video, second shout out with the walking in, taking his hat off, throwing it in the trash, and throwing his Cowboys shirt in the trash.
I didn't see that.
Oh, it was great. I'll show it to you. Loved it. But, guys, great show tonight. Thank you to the fam who participated on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Periscope. We appreciate you guys. Chucks and Chrome, Ryan Brodo. Show brought to you
Dallas Week.
Show brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy. You can find them in Burlington, Cherry Hill, and Princeton, New Jersey. Also on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. And also by Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountants. Make them yours, gibsonmayer.com. And as always, our poll question, very happily brought to us by Scanzano Sports, scanzanosports.com. Big week, guys. Eagles-Cowboys week. Let's get pumped up. And should we get like an Eagles chant going for this week? I mean, it's a big game.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
You want to do
Ready?
it?
Ready?
E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles!
Let's take out them boys, guys. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the game.